yeah.
All the other human solution stuff works its way into here. I think one set of praying hands is enough, huh? Promises of the ninth step.
I can put this on in that. I can put this on in that.
What?
I'll clean it up. I'll let you listen to it.
I don't care. Dude, I have no anonymity whatsoever. Who wants to know what? I don't give a flying fart. I believe that anonymity has nothing to do with seeing somebody in a meeting. It has to do with profiting from your position in Alcoholics Anonymous. That's Bill Wilson wrote it because he was making money speaking for colleges and he thought that I can't do this anymore. It's going to be the end of AA. It's going to ruin AA. So he went back and he wrote anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our. Had nothing to do with being in line at 7-Eleven and going, hey, I know you from the AA meeting. Nothing whatsoever to do with it. That's a fear instilled by people in here who haven't controlled their fears yet. More of that human solution stuff. Oh, that baby's up now, huh? Sounds like that echo's gone too, or is it? I can't tell from up here. Anyway. Hello everyone, welcome to the Thursday night Big Book Bottom Line group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We ask that you silence your cell phones and pagers at this time and please refrain from cussing when you share. Could I please have 3 volunteers clean up after the meeting? Thank you. In support of AA singleness of purpose, attendance at closed meetings is limited to persons who have a desire to stop drinking. If you think you have a problem with alcohol, you're welcome to attend this meeting. We ask that when discussing our problems, we confine ourselves to those problems as they relate to alcoholism. Please join in a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm an alcoholic and a member of this group. My name's Doug. What's happening? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Could we have a volunteer to read our traditions for us tonight? Hey, Carl.
Carl, alcoholic.
Hey, Carl.
Tradition. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority. A loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group would never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such would never be organized, but may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name would never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
Well, looks like our secretary's report. There it is. We're gonna pass the baskets now. Get your money before you leave. And you find out Jim's not here. The Bottom Line Group Secretary's Report. We have 58 meetings a week. They're listed on the green chalkboard. You need 2 years of sobriety to chair a Big Book Step or Tradition meeting, 1 year to chair an 8:30 p.m. or beginners meeting, and 6 months to chair a regular meeting. Anniversary night is held the last Sunday of the month at 7 p.m. If you are celebrating a year or more, add your name to the anniversary board and we will gladly celebrate with you. Business meetings are held the first Sunday of the month at 6:45 p.m. If you'd like to be a member of the Bottom Line Group, sign your name in the black book on the desk. You must be a member to vote on any motions of group conscience. A weekly cleaning party is held every Saturday at 1 p.m. This is a rewarding opportunity for service. Please come out. There are AA and non-AA related bulletin boards around the room for your information. Literature and grapevines on the rack are for sale at cost. Please pay the chairperson. Please keep the grounds clean and remember to park between the white lines, not in the gravel or designated no parking areas. There is a temporary sponsor list on the back wall. Take a name off if you need a sponsor. Put your name on if you're willing to be a sponsor. Would all those willing to be a sponsor please raise your hands? Are there any announcements for the good of AA?
I'm a grateful recovery and alcoholic member to Get a Life Group. I'm Jay.
And Jay?
My family. I'm also a member of the Broward County Institution Committee, which takes meetings in hospitals, detoxes, treatment centers, jails, places where people are unable to get out and go to meetings like we are here right now. We meet the first Tuesday of every month, 6:30 in the evening over at the 12-Step House, and the first Thursday of every month, 7 o'clock in the evening at the 101. We do need volunteers. You must have at least 1 year clean and sober time. Please come and join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Friday night at 6:30, Sample and 16th Terrace, behind the firehouse. There's a meeting. It's an open meeting to anyone who needs support. After the meeting, there is food. If you don't make the meeting, please join us for fellowship and food after the meeting.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, the Bottom Line Group Conscience. Well, like I said, I guess Jim B's a little under the weather or something. So, I used to, my name's Doug and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Doug.
I used to chair Big Book meetings a lot prior to coming across Jim about 3 years ago. I feel like an idiot when I listen to him. You know, I feel like, what the hell do I have to offer? I'll just sit in his meetings and, you know, he's about the smartest man I've ever heard. My first sponsor was, he was like a guru down at the 12-Step House. A lot of guys knew him. He had some sober houses, and he helped. Is that a little loud? He helped hundreds of guys through the steps that I know of, and he was always surrounded by people. And my second sponsor is still alive. My first sponsor died about 3 or 4 years ago. My second sponsor is still alive. He has about 42, 43 years. I don't take a lot of his time because he's surrounded by guys too. You have to stand in line just to talk to him when he goes to meetings. I consider my sobriety the most important thing in my life today. And like I said, I used to chair a lot of Big Book meetings, particularly this one. Over the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, I've chaired this meeting like, it must be 5 or 6 times. And it used to, Jim just took it on. He's been doing it for a long time. He does meeting until people get sick of listening to him. But, you know, used to, it was like, I think it was like a 12-week thing. You know, you'd do a chapter a week or something, or half a chapter if it was a long one or something. But like I say, it's been about 3 years since I've done a Big Book meeting. I've been following him around, trying to hopefully get a little better at teaching people what's going on in the Big Book, because that to me is one of the most important things in my life today, is whether or not I can help somebody else understand what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not someone who can turn, you know, just think of something like, you know, something that's really important like selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of all of our troubles, which is one of the most important things that I've heard in the Big Book. I couldn't tell you exactly what page it's on, but I know in my book it's all highlighted and underlined, and I mean, I'm not going to try to pick up where Jim left off, you know, try to, you know, just like wherever it was, I don't even remember where, we just read, you know, he'd open up and read a page and spend the whole meeting looking at that one page and what it says on that page. So I'm just going to wing it and try to maybe not go through all 12 steps tonight, but I will try to explain what I believe is going on in here. Maybe I can be helpful to somebody a little bit, because I have 13 years coming up on, you know, about 13 and a half years of sobriety, and I firmly believe you just don't come across that much time without learning something. I mean, unless you just don't go to meetings and you just kind of like white knuckling it or whatever the hell they call that. I don't know. But like I said, sobriety is the most important thing in my life. And my first sponsor taught me that basically, to simplify what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous, and a lot of people probably aren't going to like it, is that the child is becoming an adult. That's basically what's going on in here. And the proof of that, like I said, I don't know which page it's on, but selfishness, self-centeredness is the root of all of our troubles. I wouldn't know. If I had a particular spot in the big book I would say that we could go to, it would be step 4, because in my opinion, step 4 is the most important step, because it teaches me and it teaches other alcoholics how to do our inventory. And in the future, the inventory is going to be our most important asset in sobriety, because it's how I put myself in check in relation to the people that are in my life. And pretty much my entire reason for living from here on out, from when I finally understood what life was about, what I believe I did, my reason for living is to serve the people in my life. Plain and simple. I have no other reason for living today. And it sounds pretty heavy, you know, and it sounds like, you know, but it really was. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I was pretty much beat. I was dead. My whole life was run on self. Selfishness, self-centeredness was the root of all of my troubles. At times it may have seemed like I was living my life for other people, but what I was really doing was living my life for myself, because the only reason I had people in my life was so I could, you know, at some point in time I could get something from them, whether it was emotional support or financial support, or, you know, sleep on the couch for a night, or bail me out of jail, or whatever it was. I had no other people in my life other than the people who would do something for me. If they wouldn't do anything for me, they were gone, you know. I don't know where we could start in the big book, other than to say that I'll just go through the steps if I could, the way that I was taught. I'm not very good at cross-referencing what I know with what page it's on in the book, but most of what I believe to be fact is stuff that I've read in the book and highlighted and underlined and burned into my head over the years. And I firmly believe that if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous and you're in an AA meeting, that you have done steps 1 and 2, and you are now on step 3, in which you're in the process of making the decision whether you're going to go on with the rest of the steps or not. They're real simple. I know some people have you write stuff out, and step 1, you break it down into different pieces, and it's not like that. I don't believe it is. My first sponsor when he died had like 27 years, I believe. My current sponsor had me go through the steps, and he didn't even take me through steps 1, 2, and 3. We just went straight to 4. You want to do the steps? Okay, start writing your inventory. What about 1, 2, and 3? You've done 1, 2, and 3. You're asking about you're asking help now. You're doing step 4 is what you're doing, because step 3 basically says that you're going to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him, and how you're going to do that is to do the rest of the steps 4 through 12. That's how you're going to turn your will and your life over to the care of God. And I don't know, step 2, simplified, is just, do you believe in God or not? It's a politically correct way of asking a question of somebody that's a difficult question to ask for some people. Because, is there a God or not? It's a pretty heavy question. It really is. I mean, some people have it and some don't, and some people are struggling with it. I've noticed that. That's been the only question I've had from my last couple of sponsors, that people that I ask questions of, is, what do you say to somebody who says they don't believe in God, if they ask for help and they say, will you help me through the steps? And then you say, step 2, do you believe in God? And they say no. Well, we'll have a drink and come back when you're ready. I don't know what the hell to tell somebody like that. For me, I found God, a long time ago when I was in my teens. I struggled with the question of, why be alive? What's life about? Is there a God? Is there not a God? And I jumbled that thing for years before I finally came up with, God of my own understanding before I ever came into AA. So that's the only difficult question that I have is, what do you do with someone who just says, no, I don't believe? But I guess Jim's got a pretty good answer to that, and he says, just pray for the willingness. And it's kind of a smart aleck answer, but what else can you say to it? So step 2 is, do you believe in God or not? Step 1 is you're powerless. So I guess the one little phrase in the big book where it says, I guess it's in More About Alcoholism. Like I said, I couldn't tell you what page it's on, but I'm pretty sure about what it says, and it says that you had to fully concede to your innermost self that you were an alcoholic. This is the first step in recovery. And that's a pretty heavy thing when you think about it, to fully concede to your innermost self. And I don't believe that this is the first step, it's the only step that you have to do 100%. I don't know where that came from. I've heard people say it, and over the years I thought, oh, that sounds pretty good, I'll use that. And then when I heard other people say, what the hell are you talking about? It's the only step you have to do 100%. That's just, that statement alone says that you don't know what the hell you're talking about, in my opinion. And whenever I hear somebody say it, that's the first thing I say is, I haven't got a clue what he's talking about. Anyway, so step 4 is your inventory. And the inventory has 4 lists that you need to do. And the reason that you do these 4 lists is because it's hard for somebody to understand that they're still a child. In their behavior in relation to the people in their lives, you are acting like a child. You are either over-dependent on other people, you are resentful and selfish and fearful when it comes to relationships with other people. And in order to understand that, you have to do your inventory, not Bill Wilson's and not your sponsors. It has to be the people that are in your life, your mother and father, brother, sister, wife, children, whoever it is that's in your life has to be in your inventory, because in order for you to get over the denial of the fact that what your behavior is like, you have to see it on paper. I had to see mine on paper to fully understand it. When you see it on paper, I heard somebody say that a lot of the resentments and the fears will go away just by looking at them on paper. I don't know about that, but I do know how to get rid of them today, and that is that God relieves them from me, just like He did my alcoholism. God relieved me of my obsession to drink, and it has not returned since. And during my period of sobriety, I've done the steps, and I've learned how to ask God to relieve me of my fears and my resentments, and to make amends for the harms that I've done others. These are the most important steps to growing as a child to an adult, I guess, a spiritual form of growth. I guess there are other ways of growing spiritually, but in Alcoholics Anonymous, this is the course that Bill Wilson has written down for us, and I firmly believe that it works, because, like I said, I didn't always feel like my only reason for living today was to serve God and the people about me. And, I guess he wrote to serve God and the people about me because that's a little easier than just serve the people around you. Because when you break that down and you say that my only reason for to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us is how Bill Wilson wrote that. And in order to, what God wants you to do is to do things for the people that are in your life. I heard somebody say one time that God works through people. He doesn't come down and do things for you, okay? So in order for you to do something for somebody else, in order for God to do something for somebody else, He's going to do it through you, okay? And if you say that I'm a little lost here. Your only reason for living is to serve God and the people about you, to fit ourselves, to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. And God wants you to do things for other people so He can work through you for other people. Then really your main reason for living is to serve other people. That's just, you can cut through the chase and, that's how you serve God, is to do things for other people. And I don't know how to explain it other than to say that I get a feeling about myself that I'm a really good person when I start thinking that way, when I start living that way. I couldn't tell you that 100% of my life is like that, but I can tell you that it's getting better all the time. And the fear that drove me to drink is virtually non-existent. Whenever I do have fears, I know exactly what to do with them today. And the hardest part about that is to identify the fears. And that's one of the things that the 4th step helps me do, is to see, where the fears are coming into my life. And a lot of my fears, I guess, are work-related, because most of my life is spent pretty much at work and at AA meetings. I don't know how to explain it other than to say that you put in a 9-10 hour day every day trying to make something happen in your life, and it's just, they go. I don't know where I've been following Jim around for 3 years, and I'll be damned if it seems like 3 years. I don't know. Probably more like 4 now. When I found him over there at the Pompano Beach Group about 3 or 4 years ago, I guess it was. Anyway, the 4th step are those 4 lists that you make, your resentments and your fears. And one of the things that really caught me, it took me a while to understand that, was that the resentments are based in fear. When you look at the resentment list that Bill Wilson wrote, he says, notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside each one of these, resentments. And that was one of the questions I had for Jim. I've only had 2 questions for Jim, and one of them was, are all resentments based in fear? Absolutely. Without any doubt, every resentment that I have today is based in fear. I could tell you a couple of my resentments that were on my list were like police department, and I had resentments was a church. I had all churches, religion I should say, not church. Religion was one of my resentments. And, it's just, I don't want to get personal, but I had some resentments, and I saw that they were all based in fear. Therefore, the second list is fear. Resentment's your first list. Your second list is fear. Actually, I think it's the 4th list. The harms done others sexually are second and third, and 4th is the fear. But when you're looking at it, and you see that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of all of my trouble, and that my drinking was caused by fear. So I'm selfishness and self-centeredness is what I am, and I'm driven by fear. And my first sponsor taught me, he said, what other kind of human being is it that's driven by fear like that, and resentment, and is full of self? It's a child. It's not an adult. When I look at my grandparents and my mother, and I look back and I say that, they really at times seemed like they were more concerned with my life and just me, and more than they were their own lives and their own things that were going on in their lives at times. Not always, but when you're growing up, when you're 4, 5, 6 years old, and you look up to these people and you think, what was it about them that gives me the memory of adults and parents in my life? And that was the selflessness that they had. That it wasn't that they lived their lives for me, but they devoted a lot of their attention and a lot of their lives to me, and raising me. Same with my grandfather. At times he was a real asshole, and he said a lot of things he shouldn't have, but he taught me a lot. It seemed like his reason for living was to teach me all the knowledge that was in his head and to pass his business on to me. It didn't work out that way, but there was something about him. It was just selfless. It wasn't full of self. And I look at that today and I say, how am I going to get to that point in my life when I live my life for other people, whether it's children or just anybody that's in my life? And one of the ways that I'm going to get there is through these inventories that I get in Alcoholics Anonymous, the 4-step inventory, which is repeated in the 10th and the 11th steps. So in the 4th step, I got the harms done others and the harms done others sexually. And I've heard that you break it down because the harm's done others sexually are the closest relationships to you. And that the reason that you're going to look at these harms done others is because of the guilt, remorse, and shame that I'm carrying around, and it's blocking me from my relationship with God. And in order to get closer to God, I need to get rid of the guilt, remorse, and shame that I'm carrying around for my actions in the past, and the things that I'm going to be doing on a daily basis. When I harm people during the day at any given time, I make those amends as soon as possible to get rid of the guilt, remorse, and shame, in order to better, get a handle on what God wants me to do. One of my questions for the sponsor that I have now, he's got like 43 years. I asked him, I said, just what is God? I come to step 11, and when you get to step 11, a lot of people don't really see that it says sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact with God. And then it says that you pray only. You seek through prayer and meditation, but you don't pray for this and that, and you pray only for the knowledge of His will for you and the power to carry that out. There aren't a whole lot of prayers that you're going to be making. It's just that one prayer. Pray only for the knowledge of... why would He have said only if He didn't mean that? I know in a lot of the other literature that he writes, he has, all these things that you pray for. But I guess he's figuring by the time you get to step 11 that you have grown spiritually enough that all you need to do is seek for His will in your life. And I asked my second sponsor, I said, what is God's will? Because I heard other people give a lot of different answers, and the answers come along like, well, it's a little different for each individual person. God's will for this person isn't the same as it is for that person. And I said, that's not a very good answer. I didn't like that. It didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. And then I came across a real smart man, a real wise man, and I asked him, and I said, what is God's will for me? And he said, oh, it's simple. You don't understand? God's will for you was to be who you were supposed to be all along. You weren't supposed to be the guy who was borrowing the car, getting bailed out of jail, being overly dependent and relationship-wise as you were on all the people that were in your life. You weren't supposed to be calling friends and family at 2 o'clock in the morning or borrowing money, stealing TVs, stealing whatever the hell else it was I was stealing. I was supposed to be an adult who was taking the responsibilities that were supposed to be mine all along. I was supposed to be the brother that I was supposed to be, not the guy that I was. So God's will for me was simple. It wasn't the alcoholic that I turned out to be. It just seemed to happen that way because I never found my way. I remember going to school and learning about mathematics and reading and writing and arithmetic and world geography and photography and all the other stuff that I learned, but no one ever taught me about growing up. I guess they just figured everybody will find their own way, Little did I know I'd find my way into here, and this is where I learned how to do it. I learned how to become the responsible adult that I was supposed to be by working these steps in my life. One of the most important things I heard that I didn't hear for several years, my first sponsor took me through the steps and didn't really explain to me what the hell I was doing. He did have me do exactly what it was I did, but he didn't say this is why you're doing it and this is how you're going to teach it to somebody else. I just remember doing, the things that I did, and there were several years I sponsored no one. I just went to meetings and hung out. It's like there I was in the seat. I'd be honest with you, I preferred meetings where people were speaking and speaker meetings, and today I can't stand them. I have to force myself to stay in the seat while people are speaking because all they ever talk about is drinking and the good old days, and whatever the hell else it was, the taste of it when it went down, and I don't know, man. We had one guy down at the old Bottom Line over there in the Veritas building. I had to get up and walk out because he kept saying, I got shot and stabbed and beat up, and it's 30 minutes of this shot and stabbed and beat up, and I was a football player. And some guy next to me goes, God, enough already. And I started laughing so hard I had to get up and leave. I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard because it was just reminiscent of all the stories. I jokingly say, it's like 29 minutes of war story and like 1 minute of, oh yeah, and I got sober. Thank you, good night, But I guess other than a resentment that I have toward people that do that, I should understand that these people probably just don't understand the steps, and they don't understand. If they did, they would try to transmit it to somebody else, because you can't transmit something that you don't have. So that's probably one of the easiest things for me to say when I'm trying to not leave, because I hate getting up and leaving the meetings. I don't know why. The halfway house I went to would punish us if we left a meeting early, so it stuck with me for the last 13 years, I try not to ever get up and leave a meeting, even just to go to the bathroom or get something to drink. Sit right there and don't move. It's like the polite thing to do, is respectful toward whoever else is in the room, whether they're speaking or sitting there with you. I got step 4 down, and step 5 is pretty simple. I mean, God knows it. Now you've written it down, you know it, you just show it to your sponsor. And I've heard some people say, well, take it to a clergy, and I mean, I've heard a smart man say, well, then the clergy needs to know why you're doing this with him, or whoever it is that you share it with. You just don't take it to somebody and dump it on them and leave. They have to sit and look at it and explain to you what it is that you've done and why you've done it. That's why this is like it is. Basically, I've been told that my sponsor did it with me. He just basically looked at it and he said, okay, now this is what's going on here. You see, you are selfish, self-centered, and full of fear, and it's time to outgrow this stuff. It's time to put it behind you. That's what happened when I did my 5th step with somebody. And they said, I want you to remember what it is you've done here, and do not burn this, do not throw it away. You're going to need it in the future in order to learn from it and learn how to do it when you're doing it in your 10th and your 11th steps, which is what you're going to do. Just like you brush your teeth every day, just like you take a shower every day, you are going to review your day. Where were you selfish? Where were you frightened? Where were you inconsiderate, dishonest? You've got to make amends where it is that you've done these harms to other people in order to clear away the guilt, remorse, and shame so that you can better do God's will tomorrow and today. So the 6th step is pretty simple. You're just entirely ready. You know, I heard some people say this is the step that separates the boys from the men. I almost subscribed to that once till I heard somebody who really knew what the hell they were talking about, and they said basically it's just the entirely ready part is the most important thing in there. It's no men from the boys. It's the being entirely ready was not something that I made myself. It was just something that I was. I didn't sit there and go, I got to be entirely ready. How am I going to get to be entirely ready? No, by the process of going through the 4th step and the 5th step and seeing what I did and seeing that my resentments and fears and my harms done others, my resentments and fears had dominated my life, and my harms done others were dominating the guilt, remorse, and shame that were weighting me down, had to be gotten rid of. And when I got to step 6, I said, phew, I am entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Why would anybody want to hang on to this? That's what step 6 is saying. Step 7, you just ask God to remove these defects of character. Simple as Simon. In step 8, you got the list of people that you had harmed in your 4th step. I've heard my sponsor I have now say that there may be some people that you don't have on your resentment list that you might want to add to your list of amends that you need to make. So you need to review that. Do you need to add some people to your 8-step list? And amends, I got to tell you, there's only a couple of people in my life today who were in my life back then. A lot of my family has died, and I'm not looking for any sympathy or anything. It's just shit happens. You know, cousin got shot and killed. A couple of them died in a car accident, and they die of heart attacks, cancer, and all this. Everybody, stroke, whatever. You know, they're all gone except for 2 or 3 of them now. And one day I don't know, it was about 7 years ago, I went to this current sponsor that I have, and I said, what do I do for the 9th step? He says, what are you doing? They said, well, so who's left? I said, well, most closest one, I guess, is my mom. She's in Tennessee. He said, all right, you're going to Tennessee. I said, I can't go to Tennessee. I got a crew that I'm running. I know, you're going to Tennessee. I said, I can't. So he sent me to Tennessee with a handful of money and a lot of support, and I've been doing it ever since. Every year at Christmas, I go up there and I convince everybody that, you know, everything's fine and I'm not robbing 7-Elevens and I'm not dead. And I gotta tell you, it's strange to say that I guess my mother feels a lot like her life was worthwhile because I'm not, you know. She always, I know she doesn't say a lot of the way that she feels when I go up there, but I have to tell you that amends to her was probably one of the biggest amends in my life. I make amends to people when I get the opportunity that I still owe amends to, but him sending me home was probably something that set me free at that time, because I was struggling with the end of a relationship. I have to tell you, was the hardest thing that I had in sobriety was Being in the relationship was an absolute nightmare, and when it was over, I was like, thank God it's over, and it's still, I felt like one of the washcloths being wrenched or something emotionally. And when he sent me home to see my family, what was left of them, I came back and it was gone, you know, it was gone. So the ninth step is that I make amends to the people that I owe amends to in order to set myself free of the guilt, remorse, and shame for my actions when it came to my relationship with those people. And it's real simple. There's nothing complicated about it. All the steps are simple. Nothing complicated about any of them. And I guess I still do have a resentment toward people who do say things like, well, wait till you get to the fourth step. You think them first three are hard? Wait till you get to that fourth step. You know, I still remember people saying that, you know, and I still remember those people drinking. I could just only imagine that they were projecting their fears on the people around them, beings that I didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time. I was as green as I could be, you know. I may have been 26, 27, 28 years old, but I still was like a child walking around AA. I would latch on to what people say, and you know, a few years later, I'd look back on it and say, man, that guy was an idiot. And I looked at him like he knew what he was talking about, you know. Ooh. There's a lot of people that, I'm not going to say idiots, there's a lot of people who do not understand what's going on in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a real religious sponsor today. I don't see him much, to be honest with you, because like I say, he's got a lot of people that he helps, and I believe that his time is better spent with them, because I follow Jim around, and I believe Jim is like an encyclopedia of freaking knowledge. Whatever it is, his brain is still working pretty good, and he's doing a real good job of transmitting it to people, and I really appreciate him for that. Giving me the opportunity to hear it over and over and over, so maybe someday I can pass it on to somebody else and utilize it in my life today, you know, whenever I get the opportunity. So the 10th step says the spot check inventory at any given time during the day. It's not when we retire at night inventory is step 11. The way that the big book puts it is when we retire at night, that's the 11th step inventory. And the 10th step says at any given time during the day that we feel that something is not right, then that's our call to arms to do the inventory. The hardest thing to do is to understand when I need to do my inventory, and there's a certain thing that I can look for that triggers my knowledge of when I need to do it, and that is when I'm feeling not so serene, you know, when I'm feeling like it's going insane and things are getting real hectic, and that's when I need to stop and say, wait a minute, I know this is my cue, you know, what am I afraid of? That's my first question, because my life is still full of fear, but I know what to do with it today. Like I'll be walking on a tie beam 30 feet in the air and the wind starts blowing, I'm full of fear. I'm full of fear hitting that concrete at about 30, 40 mile an hour. But that's not the same fear that I'm talking about. The fear that I'm talking about is the fear that makes me an angry person. I have to admit that was the question I had for Jim. The second question I had for Jim was, is all anger based in fear? Because I knew down inside that it was, but I had to hear him say it in order for it to well, okay. So whenever I get angry, there's something that I'm afraid of, and that's real hard for me, being a man who wants to project himself as a masculine person, to admit that when I get angry at something, I'm really afraid. I'm a child that has an inability to deal with something, and just to say that in a group of people like you is half of my growing right there. The other half is to understand that God will relieve that fear from me. You know, I used to work with a guy who was a real religious guy. He's a young guy too, and we'd be working. You know, I was brought up to cuss and raise hell and, you know, goddamn this, mother frick that, and all this, and he whomped his thumb with his hammer one day, and we were holding something up, and I seen the damn whole tip of that thumb come off and start bleeding, and he goes, oh gosh dang it, I hate doing that. And I said, man, if you don't start cussing, I'm going to, you know. That's the whole way he lived his life. He was a real religious guy, and he never got upset about nothing. He never cussed and raised hell. And I was the guy that was jumping up and down. God, you know, I'm trying to get toward that, because, you know, I know that anger is basically the fear that's dominating my life still. And sometimes I try to convince myself that there's some kind of justified anger, and that's when I keep looking at Jim and I think, well, no, there is no justified anger, because it's all based in fear, and if my life is dominated by fear, then I'm not the adult that God intended me to be. So the 10th-step inventory is the same as the 4th-step inventory. Where was I selfish, dishonest, resentful, and fearful? I look for those 4 things in the 10th and the 11th step inventory, but the 11th step inventory says when I retire at night, I review my day constructively. Where at any given time during the day do I owe any amends for my harms done others? Have I let fear run my life today? And can I do a better job of doing my life tomorrow? You know, one of the things I have trouble with is that Jim says that you need to write it down every day, and I have to be honest, I don't write it down every day. If I'm having a really bad day, I'll write it down, but just like today, I didn't write my day down today. I didn't really blow up on anybody, and it was a pretty easygoing day, as cool as it gets. The hotter it is, the hotter my days are, the cooler it is, the better things go out there when you're outside all the time. And one of the most important things about step 11, like I said, is that I know that there may be people who say that you pray for this and pray for that, and I'm not going to put that down, but I will say that I've come to the point in my life when I believe that there's only one thing that I need to pray for, and when I look at step 11, I see that Bill Wilson is backing me up on that when he says pray only for the knowledge of God's will for me and the power to carry that out. And for me today, that means, to be the responsible person that I am, that I'm growing to be, that I hope someday to be, I know I'm only like 40, and I hope I live to be like 80 or 90 years old, and hope to be some wise old fart like Jim walking around telling people, how to work the steps in their life. And I don't know, I guess when I was 26, when I first came in, I had things to offer people, but no one ever really asked me for help at that time. I even had a couple of people might have asked me, and I said, nah, I ain't into that. But today I look forward to the opportunity to teach someone who wants to do the steps, because I bet I've had 100 guys ask me for my phone number and ask me to take them through the steps, and I've probably had about 6 of them make it, halfway, and only about 3 or 4 of them have been through all 12 steps, just because they, for whatever reason, they don't call, they disappear off the face of the earth, I don't know, they go back to wherever it is they piped them in out here, Philadelphia, Detroit, New York, wherever it is they're coming from. I think I had one guy I took through all 12 steps, was an engineer at the Ford plant in Detroit, and he called me for about 6 months, once a week, and he kept, telling me about everything was going great up there, and then just one day he stopped calling. I don't know if he drank or not, it doesn't matter, but it was great to have him call, and I gotta tell you, that was really helpful for me. As a matter of fact, I'll probably call my sponsor tomorrow, too late tonight. That's the only reason that I feel that I need to contact my sponsor today, is to help him, to say, hey, thanks for the help, man. When I needed it, you were there, and you're great, man. Go help somebody that really needs it. So, step 11 and step 12 is pretty much just to sit up here and to try to explain to you guys, what I've learned about the steps. And like I said, one of the hardest things for me to understand is that I'm a child becoming an adult. My first sponsor used to jokingly, you might even recognize this if you were down at the 12-step house, he would say, I'm the king baby, the great I am, I want my baba, he would put his, like Jack Daniels, I want my baba. But he was a real popular guy down there, and it's not that he had his own brand of teaching the steps, it's that I believe he was a little more true and not politically correct, I believe that the big book and the way of it is, because how do you teach a 50-year-old, 60-year-old man that he's been a child all of his life? I mean, it's a real hard thing to do. To tell him that you've been a child all your life, you're 50 years old, but you are not exhibiting the behavior of a 50-year-old man, or it's just something that's real difficult. So a politically correct way of saying it is, the way we've got it here, I believe, and I subscribe to it too. I had a 12 and 12. I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. Maybe I threw it out the window sometime or something. I don't know. I don't like it. All I know is when I read the 12 and 12, it confused me, and this was so easy, and it seemed so in line with what my first sponsor had me do. You know, it was, like I said, I didn't understand what it was he had me do, and it kept me sober for years, probably 5 years before I ran into a real bad log jam and went looking for help again. And my sponsor told me, he said, look, when we went through the steps, he said, all you need to do is make the amends you didn't go make. He says, you've been through the steps and you've been working the steps, you just didn't make amends. And you're not in the habit of asking God to remove your fears and doing your inventory on a daily basis. And one of the things that Jim says, is I believe is really important, is when you see someone who has time, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, when they have time and they go out and drink, they did not take their daily inventory. They weren't doing the 11th step is what they weren't doing, which is when you retire at night inventory. Because you can say that you've done enough of the steps to stay sober for the rest of your life. Because that's when I came in here, I heard people say things like, oh, I'm an arm's length away from a drink. And, I said, well, that sounds cliche or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of weird. And then I heard people say, oh, don't ever say you'll never drink again, because you'll drink again. It's like some kind of like it happens that way, Oh, I'm never going to drink again, and you head straight out and drink. That's stupid too, So what really happens is that, shit, I lost it there for a minute. If you put faith in God, that's one of the most important things I've heard Jim say, is that what's really going on in an AA meeting between me and you and everybody in here, when we interact with each other, what's really going on in an AA meeting is the teaching of faith. That one person who has established and learned how to have faith in God is trying to explain it to another person. And that's bottom line. That's what's going on in an AA meeting. You can say we're learning the steps. You can say that we're staying sober. We're learning how to live our lives for other people. But the simplified reason for simplified answer for what's going on in here is that I believe today that I will never, ever take another drink of alcohol as long as I live. I don't worry about it anymore. I know for a fact, I have complete, absolute faith that God will keep me sober from now on. I have nothing to fear whatsoever. And when I sit up here, in order for me to project that to you, I have to convince you that I believe that. I truly do. I mean, if somebody says something like, well, don't say you'll never drink again, you may go out and drink, then what they're really saying is that their faith in God really just isn't that strong. Because they're afraid that if they say it, God doesn't come down with lightning bolt and say, you shouldn't have said that, here, have a drink on me. That ain't God. He ain't going to do that to you, man. That's ridiculous. What happens is your faith that God is there just slips, and the fear comes back. And the reason I drank was to kill that fear. I didn't know it at the time. My first sponsor used to say, he'd stand up in a meeting and say, why did you drink? He was a loud guy, too. He'd stand right up and start yelling. He wouldn't need a microphone. Why did you drink? And you say, well, I don't know, it felt good. Right, it felt good. So what the hell was so wrong with you that you needed to turn to this to feel better? Why didn't you feel good without it, And that's basically what I believe today is in my life. My actions and my behavior in relation to the people that are in my life is that I am no longer overly dependent upon them. I am not the child that I was. I am becoming an adult and responsible, and I feel like my reason for living is to serve the people in my life, okay? And it's just this inner peace that I have. I don't need to drown it away. It's like a sigh of relief almost, a spiritual sigh of relief that, whew, God, I think I found it now. I was looking all those years for something. I was trying to determine whether I was going to go on an all-out. Who was that guy that drove through 3 or 4 states and stole cars and shot people and robbed places? And it wasn't Ted Bundy. It was right around the time of Ted Bundy in like 78 or 79. It was like he just snapped, He was an electrical contractor here in Broward County, and they were following him with news cameras and helicopters and shit, and finally had a big shootout with the cops. And that's what I felt, what is life anyway? Who gives a damn? Nothing matters anyway. And then one day God was there, and I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter anyway. Who cares what it's about? Just enjoy it, do what it is I'm supposed to do and get the feelings that I get being an adult and living my life for other people. That was just something that I struggled with for years, and I don't know how to explain that to somebody. You know, when you see people coming in and out and in and out, and I've seen people for years. I'll be honest with you. There's 2 or 3, 4 people that I know. I've been in the bottom line for about 8 or 9 years, and there's a few people that have been in and out of here picking up white chips for the entire time. And I have to ask myself, I say, what's going on with that person? Why just can't they get it? I mean, even I've taken the time out a little bit to try to explain it to them, and I know they've been in meetings when somebody was there explaining it. And the truth of the matter is that they're struggling with the God thing. It's a really difficult thing for some people. It was for me too. I didn't struggle to the point that I had shootouts with cops or anything, but I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done until I came across this this feeling that, okay, there is a God. And that, for me, I believe that was one of the most important things in my life. So, the thing of faith, I don't know how to explain it other than to say that I firmly believe that, God's there and I have nothing to worry about. Because I couldn't stop drinking. And I tried. I bounced in and out for, I believe, 3 years. And I would almost beg, please, if there's anything there. And then one day I just felt the will to live just go out of me one night. I remember stumbling out of a bar, and I stumbled toward Cracktown again, and I thought to myself, okay, this is it. I mean, this is like 3 years of this crap now. 5 years of crack I had, along with drinking myself into oblivions. And I remember walking down the street thinking, I believe in God. And I sort of directed my attention toward God, and I said, if you're going to do something, now would be a really good time. Because I just feel like, what's the point? I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, what's that Groundhog Day? You ever see that movie when he wakes up in the morning? It's Groundhog Week for me. It was get up and go to work Monday morning, Friday night, off and running for a few days, and I felt like there was a bunch of scenes there where Bill Murray was trying to kill himself, where he just, every day he would drive off a cliff, he would have, whatever it was he did that he died in like 5 or 6 of those scenes. That's what I felt like. I felt like, what? I'm done. I'm really done. And for the damnedest thing, I stepped into Nick Navarro's little sting over here, and I remember thinking, oh, not again. This has happened to me before, like twice before. And I remember sitting there in the jail cell thinking, that was weird. Like 5 minutes before I had the handcuffs on my wrists, I said, God, if you're going to do something, now would be a really good time. And I'm thinking, I'd never heard that story about, well, I sent the police car, the rowboat, and the helicopter. You ever heard that one? I never heard that story before that, but when I heard that story, I was like, damn, why didn't I, well, I sent the damn Broward Sheriff's Office and the stockade and So I firmly believe that God's there. I know God's there, without a doubt. And I think it's dangerous for someone to say something like, don't say that you'll never drink again. Because I came in here with that assumption. I came in here with that intention. If I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and I thought, well, I'm going to be teetering on the edge of sobriety for the rest of my life, I'd better walk that thin line. When I came in here, if I thought that was it, I'd have said, you know what, I don't want what you have. If I'm going to be walking that thin line of sobriety for the rest of my life, the hell with that. Let's just finish what we were doing and get out of here, I don't mean AA, I mean life-wise. But when I came in, I heard somebody, that old fat guy down there who was my sponsor, who I'll never forget him. His name was Gary Carringer, and everybody down there knew him. And he said, you don't ever have to feel that way again. And what he was talking about was that you're afraid that you're going to drink. You don't ever have to feel that way again. You don't ever have to feel like, if I don't do something, I'm going to drink. I believe that I keep my life in order with these steps in order to stay close to God, but I don't believe that if I fail to do this that I will drink. Because if I still have faith in God that He'll keep me sober, there's nothing to worry about. But I think it's in my best interest to continue to do these inventories that I do and to continue to live my life. It's been over the last few years, it's been something that's been more and more a part of my life that I can't imagine why I would live for any other reason other than to serve people in my life. I mean, what would be my reason for getting a yacht and a fancy house and big fancy car and all the stuff that millionaires have. What would be my reason for that? It'd be like, well, you got it, now what? Well, go get this, now what? Well, go get that, now what? Well, if you serve people and you live your life like that and you get this feeling about yourself like, I love myself and I love life and I love God, I love everything now. If I get that feeling from doing things for other people, then I really have no reason to live for myself anymore, other than to say that the reason that I get up and take showers and go to work and brush my teeth and keep this thing healthy as I can is so that I can better serve the people around me. I can't serve people around me with a mouthful of rotten teeth and my hair falling out and nasty clothes and living on the streets. How am I going to serve somebody like that? So it's best if I keep myself in order to, help people. In order to help my family and people that I work with, the people that I work for, the people that are in this AA meeting, in order to, all I can say is the passing of faith, and if anybody else is having trouble with faith, believe me, God's there. All you have to do is just ask Him for help. Other than that, like I say, I wouldn't really know how to pick up how Jim left off and just read a page and comment on that page. I know the last couple of people that have been standing in for him have done that, read something and then flip back over here and look at this and flip back over here and look at that. And that's fun and all, but to make points and to understand certain aspects and key reasons for what it is I'm doing here, that seems to me to be the most important thing in my life. And Jim's got a lot of years under his belt learning how to do that and how to explain what it is that you're reading and cross-reference it with other pages and other things. I hope to someday be able to do that. And I don't know. With that, I guess I'll not close the meeting, but thanks for letting me. Let's see what else. How about a volunteer for the chips? Anybody?
Hi, Carl.
Most important chip is the white chip. Does anybody want to pick up the white and give up the fight? After 30 days, you get a silver chip. You got 30 days? We have 90 days for red. 6 months for blue. Pop it on gold for 9 months. If you have a year or more, you put your name on the board. At the end of the month, we celebrate with the last Sunday of the month. They have cake, they're nice. If you haven't had a drink today, don't.
Okay, with that, I hope Jim's coming back next week. I don't know how sick he is or isn't. If not, we'll go back to page 1 and I'll start. Because like I said, I had the big book meeting for several, I guess it would be like 12-week stints when it used to be before Jim got up here. I don't know what's wrong with Jim. Do you?
Yeah, well, I'm telling him hi. I guess he just got wore out and he just needs to take a break. That's what I guess. He's sick. He's been throwing up and they don't know why. So I figure it's nerves or something. But I put a message board on his website, and it's www.12, the number 12, and then 12 stepsforeveryone.com, all one word, and you can find out something there.
Oh, thank you.
Or from him. Yeah.
Well, we'll see if he's in there, if he has visitation or anything. We'll all go in there and bug him.
I don't even know what hospital he's in. He wants.
Oh, okay. You don't want a room full of people, right? I don't blame him. Anyway, hey, I didn't tell any jokes tonight, so here's a construction joke for you. It's a pretty tame one. Guy goes in looking for a job, and he goes, "Hey, you need any help?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you twirl your hammer like this?" Swinging around his head. "Yeah, I can twirl my hammer like that." And he says, "Well, I don't need you then, because I got 12 guys standing around doing that all day." Anyway. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
Go. Page 62. Page 62. What are you looking for? Page 62.
Let's have a moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
you.